Sullivan from the Center for Law and Justice and Director for America First Policy Institute Center for Election Integrity and the former Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General under President Trump. Katie, good to see you. Thanks so much for coming on. This is a tough time, a difficult time for several different communities here in our country. This one here now in North Carolina. Just in the wake of the other police shootings like Minneapolis, like Columbus, the footage that you've seen being made public, you've seen it all around various news organizations. What about the specific law here in North Carolina? Is that going to continue to stand? Is there a way around that? Will that body cam footage be released? How do you read that situation in North Carolina?
First, thanks so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be on the show this morning on behalf of America First Policy Institute. We just launched last week. We have some incredible leaders, Brooke Rollins, our president and CEO, Linda McMahon, our chair of our board, so incredible, the administrator of the Small Business Administration under President Trump, and of course, Larry Kudlow is our vice chair. So I'm very happy to be here today on behalf of our newly formed organization. North Carolina is a very interesting situation. Body cameras, I was a judge for 11 years. And through the time that I was on the bench prior to joining the administration, really you saw juries wanting to see some evidence, some camera, some video, evidence like this. There was an expectation on the part of jurors. So that's first of all. Second of all, body cameras really protect both the officer and the community. There can be transparency about what happens. And it's important to get in front of that immediately, or different narratives or perhaps false narratives can start. So North Carolina's law is interesting. I did have an opportunity to just quickly look at it this morning, and it does seem like you must have a court order. That would be up to North Carolina legislators to change that law so that media, there is a special provision in there about the victims being able to see the footage. But getting in front of a narrative seems like it's best for everyone involved.
Yeah, and the body cam footage obviously would be used in the investigation process with officials, no doubt about that. But as far as public opinion goes, as we've seen in just an example of Columbus, Ohio, what we were able to see so quickly there with the alleged assailant there seen on camera with a knife in hand, you are able to come to these conclusions because you've had seen, as we see here, that specific situation there in Columbus with this officer involved shooting. As sad as it is, you've got to look at this in a factual basis, but there are times where you're not able to do that because you don't have the body cam footage, and then you've seen riots in the street, you've seen looting in the street, you've seen people injured, you have seen deaths over the summer riots. How important is it for the people to be able to see what happened and make assessments for themselves?
So this is something that we studied in the President's Commission on Law Enforcement and the Administration of Justice, was exactly what are some best ways to get in front of this issue. And there are multiple recommendations that were made in the 300-page commission report. I had the honor of serving as the vice chair of that commission and hope to continue those conversations, collecting research and data in my new position at the America First Policy Institute. Again, in my personal experience and as a judge, I think that community and what communities know and what comes out from the beginning is very important. And I know that some of our commissioners felt very strongly that there be videos released as quickly as possible. Now, you have to balance that with the need to preserve evidence. And so there's a balancing act, but one that it seems North Carolina and having to get the court order, that's not something that makes a tremendous amount of
Sure.
sense to me.
Yeah, and you may see more push for a change in the legislation there, specifically in that state. I want to ask you about this, and I want to go on your 11 years as a judge, as you stated. Protesters for the January 6th Capitol Hill riots, as we all have watched, we're learning 400 have been arrested and charged, but many right now being held without bail in that incident. And again, remember that we haven't heard of anyone being arrested with weapons, etc. But yet we see suspects like two attorneys accused of firebombing an NYPD officer were let out on bail. They were offered a plea deal here. Again, still no violence ensuing from what we've seen in the January 6th riots. We haven't even had reports of it. But yet you're seeing somewhat of a double standard if you look across our nation with the suspects here and then the folks that protested and rioted against the Capitol. How do you read that from your standpoint in judicial law?
Well, no, I appreciate that question. It's such a huge concern to me. We need a rule of law that is applied equally. Without an equally applied rule of law, what do we have? We have chaos. We don't have public safety. So if what is good for one is good for another. And I think we do see examples across this country of judges maybe deciding what the right thing is from some kind of social perspective as opposed to looking at the law. We certainly see rogue prosecutors who have been elected and just refuse to apply the laws that are on the books, especially equitably. So this is yet another example potentially of really the rule of law not happening. And I have to say that for our freedom, the very soul of our country is based on this democracy.
Yeah.
And if we don't have that, we have real issues.
We will, we'll continue to follow that. I'm out of time with you, Katie. I appreciate your time and coming on. And by the way, thanks for sharing the information on the new group. We'll see you again soon. That's Katie Sullivan joining us live.